Hello and welcome to IntelliJ Tips and Tricks. Today we're talking about writing code inside out. That is using refactorings and fixes to write clean code. A lot of people are under the impression that refactoring is only good when you've already got a code base, but I'm here to show you today that you can use refactorings even when creating brand new code to save you a lot of time, especially when it comes to creating methods and parameters, classes, records, extracting fields, methods, constants, parameters, all sorts of useful tools that make writing fresh code easy and fast. So let's jump into it. Here I've got a brand new clean project. It's called library. It's got no files in it at all. But I'm going to get started straight away by creating a single class called test library, and we'll generate everything from there, writing code and having it expand outward as the code we write populates the code base. So first thing, I press complete statement and it puts me on the next line and I say @test. So now the test class hasn't been imported into the project, but I can do fix and add JUnit4 and it will put it in the POM and import JUnit. Now I can start writing. Void test add book. Okay, now we know that we need to write public, but I didn't want to write public. Instead, I'll use a fix to generate that for me. Now I need a new library. Instead of library equals new library, I just type new library. And it doesn't exist yet. So I press Alt-Enter and I will create class. And I'm going to put that class in the source folder. And there it is. Now we've got a new class. I'm going to put this in a separate window so that you can watch and follow as we add code to this library class. So now that I've got a library class, I'll turn that into a variable, Control-Alt-V, and now all of a sudden it's declared a type library with name library. That's a great name. What are we going to do now? Let's add a book. Library dot add book. Well, that method doesn't exist yet. I don't care. I want it to have a title and I want it to have an author. So press Alt-Enter, create method, add book. Now we have this method add book. It takes a title and it takes an author and it's declared them both as strings, saving me the time of having to do that. And now I guess what we want to do is add that to some collection. So I'll say I want a collection of book item objects. Oh, what am I going to call it? How about first, let's let IntelliJ create this class for us. Now, it's a simple class. We don't really need the complexity of it. So I'll just create a record. That gives us all the getters and setters, the toString and everything else we need without needing to declare that code. I'm going to move that down so you can see this class as well. Now, we haven't imported collection, so Alt-Enter, we've imported a collection now. Let's give it a name. How about book items? Thanks for the suggestion, IntelliJ. What will it equal? Well, again, we can see all the things available to us, and I'm going to take a new hash set. Easy as that. Now that we've got the collection, we can say book items add. What's going to go in there? Let's take a look. It suggests new book item. Sounds good to me. We'll add the title, we'll add the author, and complete statement. Now, book item doesn't take title and author. As you can see here, it's an empty record. But Alt-Enter, fixes, change signature of book item, string. In doing that, it's now populated book item with the parameters that we needed, saving me the time. I don't have to type this code. Now let's rename it something better. Shift F6 rename on that class anywhere allows me to rename the item and it will rename it everywhere. It's found a variable that was called book items and it'll name that book as well. So I'll accept that. Now it's just books. Now we can come back to our library class and we can just declare a variable for this. We don't need to select the whole thing. Anywhere the cursor is on this line, Control-Alt-V extracts variable. So Control-Alt-V, hang on, why isn't it add book? Oh, sorry, we cannot make a variable out of this. I'm getting ahead of myself. What we want to do now is get that book. So say library getBook, and it's going to be based on the title. Well, now getBook doesn't exist. So Alt-Enter, create method getBook. I want this to return a book, and I'm happy for it to take title as a string parameter. Now I can come back over here and just say, make me a variable. Book equals library getBook. Saves me a lot of time. Well, let's see if we can populate that book. Of course, I would want to add it to the books collection, but it doesn't exist at the class level. So I select books and I'm going to extract field, Control-Alt-F. And now I can extract this as a field and I'll even declare it in the constructor. And here we go. Now it's created a field called books and it's declared it in a new constructor, creating all this code for me. And now I can actually interact with this object. I'm going to want to loop through this object to find the right book. So I just type .iter. This is a handy postfix completion that will create for me a for each loop. It's put book, saving me time. And now I could say if the book title equals, but I won't. I'll just say book dot title dot equals title dot if. Another postfix completion. It will surround that with the if and all the brackets that it needs and puts my caret right where it needs to be. Now I found the book, I want to return it. I'm not going to type what to return. Using Control-Shift-Space Smart Completion, it shows me the only objects that can be books. A standard completion can show me every item that I've got access to, but that list is too long. So I always prefer to use the Smart Completion, Control-Shift-Space, and it limits to only things that returns the right type, which is book in this case. So now I can come back here and do a test. Let's say I want to assert that the author is correct, perhaps. So say author needs to be author. Wait, we haven't brought in the import. So Alt-Enter, import the assert equals. Now I type book dot author complete statement. Complete statement takes me past all the brackets and puts the semicolon at the end. It's very handy. At this point, one thing I notice is that we've got some strings that are repeatedly used. I don't like repeated strings. So I'm going to extract this to a variable. Control-Alt-V extracts variable, and I can take all of the instances and put them into one variable, title. Nice. And I'm also going to do the same for author. Extract those variables, both there. Now, and I'll accept that. I will also turn them in now. Now I want to call this the Hobbit. And the author will be J.R.R. Tolkien. I might want to use these later in other methods, so I'm going to make them a constant of the class. I will extract it with Control-Alt-C, extract constant, and it suggested a name. I like the name The Hobbit for a constant that represents The Hobbit. I will extract that as a constant. I will take the name Tolkien. It's pulling these variable names out of the contents of the string. Very clever. So there we have it. We've done a lot of extracting, creating methods and parameters. It's done it all for me. Let's see if we can run the test. Hopefully it'll pass. Control-Shift-F10 runs the test at where the caret is. It's going to have to take some time to build and run. And if it all works out well, we should have a book added, a book retrieved, and it should have the correct author. So we'll just give that a chance to run. Then after that, what we'll do is we'll see if we can test the output. Look at some more ways to inject code without needing to type it. Just parsing building. Should take no time to run when it kicks off. It's running. Green, test passed. Lovely. All right, let's see. What else can we do? So I want to do some more methods. Firstly, I want this library to be a field that is accessible to all the methods in this class. Again, these refactoring tools are all available here. I'm going to be demonstrating extract field, Control-Alt-F. And because it's a test class, it knows that it can create me a setup method. Very handy, which is compliant with JUnit 4. It's put the at before statement, it's imported the before, it's called it setup, it's declared the library, it's moved it up there, and it's put the library down here. Beautiful. Now I might want to add some extra books to the class. Control D duplicate. Oops. Control D duplicate on this line. And I'll have another book. Control W expands to select an item. And I'll say the Lord of the Rings. I'm going to make that a constant as well. Control Alt C, extract it, give it a name. How about Lord of the Rings? That's a good name for that constant. So now I'm going to have a new method, something that will test the output when I say get the books. Control D to duplicate the whole method. F2 to go straight to the next error. I'll say test output. Now I notice that these two lines are the same and they're duplicated. I don't like a lot of duplication, so I'm going to extract this into a method. Control Alt M, or as you'll find them in the menu, extract method, Control Alt M, and I will call it populate library. Now it has detected there's another piece of code that's identical. And would you like to replace them both? Well, yes, I would. Thank you. So I replace that. And now the populate library is in both this method, and it's sitting at the bottom. I don't want it at the bottom. I'm going to move to the top using a move block feature, Control Shift up, up, and it moves that whole method right underneath the setup. Very nice. Now, for the output, let's see, what are we going to do? I want to print it out. System.out.println books. Too much work. OUTV tab, and it's done that for me. Now it will print the book. Let's see if we can quickly run that and see what the output of the book looks like. Building. Once we've done that, we'll make sure that the output always looks like what we want it to look like. But it's handy first to see what the default is. So we're parsing code. While we do that, I'm going to move this book method up the top here, the book class. All right, parsing, checking dependencies, getting ready to run. And it's kicking off the test. Green, and this is what it looks like. It prints out the book looking like this, with the title and the author. So I will assert that value. Now, I want to get rid of this bar at the bottom. And I've already put my caret up here, but pressing Shift Escape hides the most recently active window. So assert equals, and I expect it to look like this. And what it will be is the book.toString, I suppose. If we run that, I'm sure it will pass because it will look exactly like that. But I don't want it to look like that. I'd like it to look prettier. I'd like it to say book colon, and then have the book, and then I'll say by, and then I'll have the author, and then we'll get rid of that square bracket. So in order to make sure that my output looks like that, I need to modify the toString for that. So I come over here and I'll say Alt Insert, give me a toString, and it generates a toString with all the fields. I will replace the current toString with this. Now, the fun thing is, if I select this text and press double quote, it surrounds both edges with the double quote. Handy little feature. Then I can update it to make it look just like I want. It's going to say The Hobbit, and it's going to be by Tolkien. Now, at this point, I need to replace these strings with the actual values from the class. So I'll delete that and put in title. I'll delete the author and put in author. Then I'm going to format the class Control Alt L to apply spaces in all the right places. If I run this again, it should run nicely and it'll print the book title the way I like it to be. Something else I'd like to do is introduce parameters. Let me show you a neat way of doing that. Obviously, one way to do it, as demonstrated previously, is to simply add a new parameter here and then use a hotfix to add this as a new parameter into the method. But then I would have to come back and do it over here as well. So there's another way I like to do it. I'm going to come straight into this class here, And I will type in here, I want a review, right? Every book should have a review. Then I will add that as a third parameter into the book class. And if we look over a book, the book now has a review. Then I will extract this as a parameter of the add book method. Control-Alt-P, extract parameter, puts review in there, and then adds it to every method that was calling it. So now I can just come up and say, yes, well, the review of this one is fun book. The review of this one is long book. And I'll even make sure it says it over here. Review equals, which book was it? The Hobbit, fun book. I'll take that part here and I'll add it to the toString that I had in the book earlier. I'll select that, wrap it with quotes, put a full stop here, and I guess this will be the review part. That'll fix that up. Now, the next thing I'd like to do is add a movie to this collection. Let's expand beyond books. So how do we do it? Well, once again, we just declare the test we want. We say void test add movie. Control-Shift-Enter completes that for me. And also Alt-Enter puts the public in front for me. Well, I guess I want a new movie. Well, we don't have a new movie. Movie doesn't exist. So instead of just creating the movie class, this time I'm going to turn the book, extract it so that it's got a parent that can be library items, then we can have books and movies and DVDs, everything else we want. So here I'm going to use the refactoring, extract, superclass. From this, oh, that didn't work, refactor, extract, superclass. Cannot perform refactoring. Oh dear. I don't know why that's happening. Oh, right. First, we need to turn it into a class. So Alt-Enter, convert this record into a class. Now it's fleshed it out fully. It's even given it an equals and hash code method. The standard record doesn't use the get syntax, so the method's a title. I want it to be like a normal class. It'll say get title. When I press enter, it now refactors that all throughout the project. And Shift F6 rename on author, call it get author. Again, that gets renamed. Alt down takes me directly to the next method. Shift F6, I type get review, and now we've got the standard getters for these fields. Now I can go up to refactor, extract, superclass. We want to call it library item. The parent class will be library items, and they're all going to have a title. They'll all have a review, but only books will have an author. Movies will have a director. I say refactor, and it will extract out this book class, and it's detected that there are some places we've used books that should probably be called library items. I'm happy to go with that, so oops. I forgot to check the boxes, so I'll quickly do that again. Extract superclass, call it library item. And I'm going to choose oh, I guess it's done it. It just didn't rename the items for me. That's fine. We can do that ourselves. Now we've got a library item class, and it contains, where are we? Library item now contains the title and review, just like we wanted. From that, I'm going to create a movie class. So Alt-Enter, create subclass. It says, what do we want to call it? Well, I want a movie. Thanks. So now we have a movie. Control-Shift+ to expand everything. I'd like my movie to have a director. So let's add a director right over here in the class. So the movie's going to have some sort of title. How about we use The Hobbit? That was a good movie. What does it need next? A review. Well, we say this was a blockbuster. And now I want to add a director, but it doesn't exist. I press Alt-Enter, and I will add this director as a third property of the movie class. What are we going to do with it? Alt-Enter, I can now bind this constructor to parameters with fields. Let's do it. Okay, in she goes, and now it's created a new field director of the movie class, and it's assigning it as part of the constructor. Very handy. I guess I'll give it a proper director. I guess it was Peter Jackson. I'll extract that into a constant, Control-Alt-C. Sure, we'll call it Peter Jackson. And now we've got a subclass movie of the library item class. We've got our books class. Now we can turn this into a variable. I'll take the whole movie equals new movie. Happy with that. Let's see if we can add this movie to the library. Library.add movie. Now, of course, there is no way to add a movie at the moment, but create method add is great. It will return nothing, but I want it to take any library item, and I want the variable to be a library item. So we use the suggestions from IntelliJ there. The books, well, all of a sudden, it doesn't seem to make sense for this collection to only have books. But first I will rename this, and I'll just call it catalog, because that seems like a more fair name for something that has books and movies. I'll say catalog.add. It wants to take a book, but I'm going to override that and say, no, put the movie in. So it offers me some suggestions. I can create a local variable, but instead, all we need to do is change the type. Oh, sorry, movie is not correct. It's library item. Now, one of the suggestions is to change the collection to include library items. So I'll take that. And now all the way through, library items have become word of the day, and we're no longer just working with books. There are two cases where we're using books over here. In this case, we do want a book. Suggestion is to cast it to a book so that we can get the author. Down here, we don't really care. Any library item will print out. So we'll instead change the variable to library item. So using those fixes, I've been able to sort all that out. And now we can take a look at all the code that's been generated in this project. Let's have a look. We've got a test library. We've got a library class here. We've got a book. We've got the parent library item. We've got the movie. Oh, now this director isn't being called, but with the press of a button, we can insert a getter on that. We can insert toString, and we can have our own classes. We want everything to be in the toString, so now it'll print out. We'll move this to the bottom, generating so much code so easily using all the refactoring and fixing tools. So that's how it works. Hope you've enjoyed that. You've seen how to write clean code using refactoring tools. So don't let anyone tell you refactoring is only for fixing existing code. You can write brand new, fresh code, taking advantage of refactoring tools and code generators. All right, hope you enjoyed that video. Stay tuned for the next one.